Good morning, my name is Carla Bush. I work for Rutherford County Extension here in Murfreesboro, and I appreciate you coming to this seasonal eating program here at the Rutherford County Farmers Market. Today our program is about tomatoes, or tomatoes, however you want to say that. I did a food tomato preservation just last month, so I will refer to that one a few times in the presentation today. But Ken, our master gardener and cameraman volunteer, was kind enough to record that one, so if you missed the last one and you wanted to know maybe something about what happened as far as tomato preservation, you're welcome to look that one up on YouTube. But as far as nutrition with our tomatoes, they are high in a good source of vitamin C and vitamin A, and I have this beautiful little chart to share with you that is part of our Farmers Market Fresh program that is going on in the Rutherford County Farmers Market right now. So Farmers Market Fresh is a SNAP Ed program from the USDA and the Tennessee Department of Human Services, and Marlena Gregory and June Holt run that, but look for the blue tent, and they're definitely there on Fridays. Sometimes Tuesdays they have to do some other programs and running around the town. But as far as tomatoes, every week they feature a different commodity food, and they do a food sample or a sampling. They talk about selection, which we will also talk about that today, and storage, and also some preparation tips for each commodity food each week. So again, tomatoes high in vitamin A and vitamin C, low in calories, and they are in season. And I know someone said they have about 50 tomatoes at home right now to decide what to do with those. So you could, like I mentioned, look up the tomato preservation presentation I gave last month, or you may have tomatoes for lunch and dinner for several days. When you select tomatoes, make sure it is a firm, well-shaped tomato and fragrant as far as, the smell. A lot of people go by the smell, because if you're in a farmer's market and you pick up tomatoes and you handle them, eventually they do get kind of squished over time. So tomatoes free of any blemishes, make sure it's not shriveled or any punctures. And it shouldn't wrinkle. When you run your thumb over the skin, there shouldn't be any wrinkles. I think this is a handy tip, and we'll use that in one of our recipes, but 3 to 4 medium tomatoes weigh about a pound. So medium tomatoes would be this size. These are large. So if you want to see that, so you're looking at 3 or 4 of these would be a medium-sized tomato. So 3 or 4 of those weigh about a pound, and a pound is 2½ cups. So when a recipe calls for 2½ cups of tomatoes, you're looking at a pound of tomatoes, so you'll know how many to buy. Storage. And again, I alluded to this in the previous. When you bring your tomatoes in from the garden or from the farmer's market, and you want to store ripe tomatoes away from direct sunlight with the stem end facing up to reduce softening and darkening. Okay? Yes, so people feel very strongly. Notice mine are all, the stem end is up. Now some people, they just love to store them, like that on their counter. But this is a delicate part of the tomato, and it can cause them to get soft. So, also, feel very strongly about this. For best flavor, do not refrigerate your tomatoes. Do not refrigerate. So I mentioned that one again before because I have the embarrassingly easy salsa. And some of you were here for that embarrassingly easy salsa. And I think the only reason people love that is because it's right off the vine, fresh tomatoes. And that is the absolute best, not refrigerated, because they're fresh and have never been refrigerated. So for best flavor, you put them on your countertop away from the light, and you eat them within 3 days, ideally. So you store underripe or green tomatoes. You can put those in a paper bag at the coolest room temperature possible. Now there's also some research to say to rotate your ripe and your underripe tomatoes because of the gases. That can help those that are underripe, if you're not going to put them in a bag, to ripen. Also chopped tomatoes, which, you know, maybe you make a gallon of salsa at a time, or you have some other bruschetta that's chopped tomatoes. Those chopped tomatoes do need to be refrigerated, and hopefully that needs to be covered in your refrigerator and used within 1 or 2 days. So as far as preparation, very easy preparation. You just wash them in cool water, wash the outside skins with cool water. Now my favorite, because I'm not big on tomato peels, and again I demonstrated how to do this last time, but you place tomatoes in boiling water for about 30 seconds, and then you transfer them immediately into cold water or ice water. I usually put some ice in it. And the skins will slip right off. It's like you're cheating on your homework. I remember my mother trying to peel tomatoes raw, but if you'll just put them in that boiling water, the skins will slip right off. And a lot of recipes, sometimes you don't necessarily want the skins on there. Also to seed, you can scrape seeds away from the flesh with a pointed utensil, avoid puncturing the skin. For the tomato pie recipe that I've done before, I used a strawberry capper. If you know what that is, I always talk to my husband about you've got to have the tools. So if I'm going to cook, you've got to have the tools. So the strawberry capper is a round, has a small round end and it has teeth on the end. I will cut off the end, or the stem end of the tomato, and I'll use that strawberry capper within a Roma tomato and dig out those seeds before I slice it up to get rid of a lot of the moisture in those recipes that you need to get rid of the water, like a tomato pie. And then slicing, I do prefer at home a serrated knife, but the ones that we have here are very sharp, so I'm not going to complain about theirs. But a serrated knife is very good to use with slicing tomatoes. So the recipes I have for you today are on the inside of your handout. I think that's a cute little tomato on the front, thanks to Linda in our office who did those for me. The first one I'm going to put together because it needs to be refrigerated for about 15 minutes is the fresh tomato bruschetta. And I understand this has been a very popular recipe. I think Tiffany did it with her Cooking with Kids recipe, or Cooking with Kids program. That was a huge success. I think they're going to have to rent a bigger portion of the farmers market if they do that one again. But the first thing we have is we used a baguette, and what I'm going to make is it's a crostini. So that's a really fancy word. I'm going to try to get really fancy on you. A crostini is like a rustic food, and it was invented centuries ago as a use for stale bread. So the one I have for you today is not stale. They are toasted, and you can just regular toast bread. However, if you really want to get a little extra flavor, I brush them with olive oil on each side, and you can do a little salt and pepper. And like I said, if you don't want those extra calories, leave the oil off. But again, with the tools, this is my silicone brush. All right. So I usually take olive oil and put it in a bowl and use the brush to spread them. So this is what the bread looks like. You can get it here. We have a vendor on Fridays who has some excellent Italian loaf, and that's what we've used. And so we brush it with oil, and it looks like this. So these are going to be our crostini. And earlier, some people that were here early know I was panicking because all I had was bread. I didn't have crostini because I was having a little trouble with my toaster. But just to show you the before and the after, once you have the olive oil brushed on each side and it's toasted. So that gives it a lot of crunch, and I'm telling you, you can almost just eat it straight like that. Bruschetta, we have 2½ cups, I've mentioned. So that would be 1 pound of Roma tomatoes. And these come from our vendor that is just inside the market. On the left from Braidable. They're originally from Costa Rica. It's like a game show in here. Does anybody know their name? It's not coming to me. But they're the vendors. As soon as you go in, what is it?
Brussels.
Brussels. Excellent family from Braidable. They have a lot of Roma tomatoes, and we use these a lot for bruschetta because they're very meaty, not a lot of juice there. So I have 2½ cups of Roma tomato already chopped up to various degrees in our bowl here. And I'm going to add, and if you'll notice, I made a note, this because I love you all, is fresh garlic. I did not use the jar garlic for you, but I am not above it, just know that, okay? So, so that is fresh garlic. And I also, at this point, wanted to show you something that I learned this week, because I've been watching too much television, and there's this new show called Hack My Life. So I would love to have a volunteer. Thank you, sir. So, this is the amazing how to peel garlic. Oh, look, the camera wants to follow us. You want to move over?
Go ahead.
All you have to do, now I have a big hand, so I put the big bowl on the bottom, and you just have to keep that bowl, and you have to shake this really hard.
Oh, okay.
You have to shake it, and we're going to see what happens to that garlic. This is the 2-bowl method. Again, I mentioned you've got to have the tools, but sometimes things are just so easy, you might as well just get 2 bowls, and it breaks up the garlic. You're fabulous. That may do it. Let's see what it does. Look, it did it. I mean, I don't mean to be so surprised. Of course it did it. So here we have the cloves of garlic separated. Ta-da! Thank you. What's your name?
My name's Ernie.
Arnie.
I thought it was going to stink or something.
No! No. But if you do this, it is going to kind of bruise your garlic, so it needs to be used immediately. But it does separate the cloves of garlic. And it's the amazing 2 bowls, you know? I should market that somehow. But I did see that on Hack My Life, just to give credit to the 2-bowl method. So I did that for you this morning, and I used 1 clove of garlic in the bruschetta. Thank you. So back to my tomatoes, garlic, 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And I'm a measurer. I don't claim to be like a really excellent chef or cook. I am a home cook, and if I was at home, I would probably just eyeball it. But since you're eating this, I'm going to measure 3 tablespoons of olive oil. I don't want it to be too oily for you. And then the Parmesan cheese, which again, nothing but love for you. I have grated the Parmesan cheese. You need a microplane, or because Parmesan is a hard cheese, and as I've mentioned this before too, I prefer to grate my own cheese, whether it's cheddar or Parmesan, because the pre-grated cheese has a preservative in it. So I just try to limit the amount of preservatives that I put in my body, because I don't want to mummify myself before my time. Then we have Parmesan cheese, basil. Now I've kind of cheated on my basil. I've already chopped it up, and I'm going to use half of it in this recipe. And just look at that, the color. I sound like a cooking show. But the green, I just love the fresh ingredients. And even Ken commented when he came in, it smells so good in here. And I haven't cooked anything yet. It's just the fresh basil and the garlic. And then I also need 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. I love balsamic vinegar. You're going to hear more about my love affair with that in just a moment. And then salt and pepper, because I've also, in my few years of cooking, if you don't season something, you might as well it's just not going to be that good if you don't put seasoning in it. You've got to have salt and pepper. And I'm not brave enough to measure the salt over the dish, so I'm going to measure it over this bowl. Salt. I'm sure people dream about having their own cooking show, but when you actually get in front of the crowd and do it, how is that for you, Tiffany? Okay. Now, the lovely Tiffany Schmidt is going to take this for us and mix it up in the kitchen and refrigerate it for about 15 minutes. And then we will serve it on our, let me put the crostinis in your other hand. She will serve it on the crostinis at the end. See how I do that? You have to stay until the end. All right. All right. So that is our tomato bruschetta. And like I think you've had a variety of bruschetta recipes demonstrated at this very market. Tiffany did one with the Cooking with Kids, and the Farmers Market Fresh has also done one. And I really, they gave out these nice recipe cards and the information on the back. But I appreciate our University of Tennessee specialist being here today. I'm going to mention that on this recipe, I thought this was way too much salt. It called for a teaspoon of salt. So you might, because the first time I make any recipe, I follow it exactly. So I followed it exactly, and I thought, whoa. So just make note of that. I thought when I was putting it in, it might be too much, but you just have to go with it, yeah. Next is our caprese salad. So I love my sister-in-laws, without naming names, but we hang out a lot together, and one of them is in a little subdivision in Murfreesboro, and she invites her friends over, and one of her friends brought something like this, and I thought, man, that was really good. Why didn't I bring that? Because you know, deep down, you always want to have like that dish that everybody's talking about. You know, I've got a church homecoming coming up, and I'm like, what am I going to take? Because it's a compliment for someone to come and ask you for your recipe. So what I'm going to do is, this is a caprese salad with a balsamic reduction. Doesn't that sound swanky? The reduction. And so you can buy balsamic reduction, but you don't have to, because it really sounds swanky, but all you're doing is boiling balsamic vinegar down. So I don't mean to take the romantics, you know, it sounds so uppity, but it's really easy. And so that's what we're going to do with this one. Now, with all the, so you're gonna, this is 1 cup of balsamic vinegar, which I love the smell of balsamic vinegar. I really don't know where it has been my entire life, but it's always that kind of secret ingredient that you're like, ooh, this is good. What is that, you know, that extra something that's in it? So this is 1 cup of balsamic vinegar, and sorry, honey is sticky and it's hard to clean, so I am gonna eyeball the honey, all right? This honey is from our own George Martin from Manchester, and he is here at our market. If you haven't done his little taste test sampling, it is really worth it, because I think he has 3 different kinds. He has a wildflower, a clover, and something else. Anybody? No? Okay. I should give away prizes, and the people that would be more likely to answer those trivia questions. All right, so for this balsamic reduction, I'm using a cup of balsamic vinegar and a 1/4 cup of honey. So again, if you can boil water, you got this. So I am, and this is an induction cooktop, if you're wondering. I love this little toy. I have one at home. So balsamic vinegar and honey, and we stir it together in a small saucepan, place over high heat. It's going to come to a boil. It's already steaming. Once it comes to a boil, I'm going to reduce the heat, and I'm going to set my timer for about 10 minutes. So Tiffany, would you mind stirring this, because I have to cut up tomatoes. So this is a showy, it is a showy dish that you can take, and like I said, if you did the crostinis, which we've already talked about, and then put a layer of tomato or bruschetta, and then, thank you, and then put this balsamic reduction, it's gonna look really nice and impressive, and you'll be the one like, ooh, who brought that? And it will be empty before anyone else's. So, slicing tomatoes 101. I don't know what to tell you about this, right? You have a really sharp knife, and they were very generous with their tomatoes, because these are big. Now lower the heat. It's boiling. You may be overtaken by the fumes. You come to that ratio. Now do what? You look nice today. Tiffany works in our office. She is the FNEP program assistant. That is the Expanded Food Nutrition Program. I knew I was missing a letter in FNEP, Education Program. So she's a very busy lady, and I'm fortunate for her to be with us this morning, so she can make bruschetta and stir our balsamic reduction. Oh, look at that tomato. Do y'all see that slice? I mean, all right. And this is the, again, okay. So, since our mozzarella is this big, I'm going to, instead of leaving these as whole slices, I'm going to quarter them. So hopefully, when you all get your sample, you'll have a slice of tomato, and I think since that, and I love cheese. I don't know how you feel about cheese, but I could have an affair with it. It's wonderful. So we have, I'm going to do a slice of mozzarella, a slice of tomato, and that's going to be a lot of cheese for you. You're welcome. So, how's it doing? It's reducing.
Smells right.
It's like a science experiment over here. Add heat, chemical change. You haven't? I'm telling you, it's going to change your life. You'll be the mom that takes this to, PTO things. Well, why not? No. A good craftsman never blames their tools, right? Let me make sure I have enough. 9, 13, 14, 16. It's like counting cows. Except y'all stayed still. Look, I'm going to have exactly 16. Maybe I should have done a thicker slice of tomato. There's going to be plenty.
You have the little mix in there.
Yes. Okay. And my little towel right here. So we're waiting on reduction because we're patient people. And it says that we have about 5 more minutes. Okay, so I've reduced it to about 1/3 of a cup. I hope that's about 1/3 of a cup. It's slightly thicker. I wouldn't say a lot thicker. It's even sticking to the pan. You see that? Nothing like having an audience and a camera on you. Now, okay. Just because this is a cooking demonstration, you are supposed to cool this reduction. But I figure you may want to sample before 12 o'clock. So I did not cool that, but this is what that looks like. And when it cools, it would also be thicker, all right? So it would be more syrupy versus liquid like it is here, all right? So we will head back to the kitchen and serve these up. On any other questions, we will get that sample out to you. And like I said, when this cools, it would be thicker and more syrup-like. So, but I had to do it, so I'm glad you got to smell. All right.